Hello, everybody. Welcome to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. I am co-hosted today. I'm Reverend Mitch. I'm your co-host. I'm here with my other co-host, Reverend Renée Laboa. So we're so excited. We're doing a special edition today. And we're going to talk about Thanksgiving, and we're going to talk about what it means to us. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving past, go down memory lane, and some of the lessons and blessings from some of the events in our life that we're really grateful for, that maybe didn't start out so grateful for, but in looking back, we can kind of see the wisdom of how the path has unfolded. So I'm so grateful you're here with us on our pre-Thanksgiving Day show. So, Reverend Renée, you want to tell the audience a little bit about you?
Yeah. I'm sitting here looking at my latest bio, and I really don't want to read it. So I will tell you a little bit about me. I have been in New Thought for 31 years now, and it has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It's changed my life in so many ways. I was co-pastor for the Spiritual Living Center of Charlotte for 12 years. And now I am very excited. I'm working on my doctorate in consciousness. I know. And I am, and I'll say this right out loud, I'm an ambassador for mental health awareness. And I am also I'm also an alumni. And so Mitch is, we'll get to that, but Mitch has a program that he does about telling your story. And mine is very similar, which is weird because we hadn't even met yet. And mine's called My Story. And it's about standing in the truth of who you are and telling your story past the experience. Anyway, so I'm writing a book based on my memoirs. I'm putting together some programs that really support growth. And the final thing is that I am working currently, putting together and illustrating a children's book series based on, New Thought principles. So I'm really,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. You busy. You busy.
Busy, yeah.
So I'm Reverend Mitch, newly minted here back in October. I got to walk at Unity Village, but I've been a part of Science of Mind since I can remember. 6 years old. It was my first church I ever went to, was a Science of Mind church in Phoenix. Also the first church I ever spoke into. Like, they had me as part of the holiday show, and I had to read this big long passage, and I guess I did really well. My first public talk at 6 years old. And ever since, the Science of Mind, its principles have been on my life's journey. My mother was my first Science of Mind teacher. I'd come to her with a problem. She'd go, "If there's a will, there's a way." I just kind of had to live these principles. But I became a licensed practitioner through Centers for Spiritual Living in 2012. And that has been a beautiful journey. Walking that path, supporting people, growing my transformational coaching business based on these principles, and helping people actively put these principles into action in their lives has just been one of my greatest joys and honors. And now as a minister, I'm upping my speaking game. I speak every Sunday somewhere, sometimes twice on one Sunday, East Coast, West Coast. Which is fabulous. I love it so much. And who knows what the future holds. And now that I have my own company, Speak, Teach, Inspire, I'm doing all kinds of not only coaching, but consulting. I'm teaching a lot of workshops on communication and stress reduction and time management, all kinds of amazing things. So Yeah, I'm excited to get more of it out into the world. And one of my marquee programs, Eat, Pray, Live, we're really going to kick off pretty big in January, which is really about aligning your mind, body, and spirit to uplevel your well-being. And I had to walk this journey about a year and a half ago, and I learned some things. I learned, I learned that fat is good. Who knew? And that if you take care of the inflammation and the insulin resistance and you reduce your stress, your body heals. Really magical things like that. So I'm excited about the new year, and I love this show today. That you said yes, Renee. You said yes. Thank you for being willing to play with me and do a little bit about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I thought we would start off with a little bit of what Thanksgiving means to us. And Renee, when you think of this holiday, what is it in representation for you?
Ooh, it changes. It changes over the years, I think, as I evolve and the planet evolves and my consciousness expands. Let's just put it that way. And so this year, I would say, based on everything that's going on the planet,
Mm,
try to be grateful for everything that's in my life, of course, and I like to send that gratitude out also out into the world. And this year, I would say that I am so grateful for the journey and personally, um, really reflecting on the growth that I've had over the past 6 years and how much everything has changed for me and how grateful I am for the
mm,
smallest, most beautiful moments. And because of that, I see people and life completely different. And so I'm grateful that I get to spend the holidays with my mom,
yeah.
who is 82, and
Mm,
um, and I know that she won't be here forever, and so my relationship with her has healed and changed, and our relationship is becoming even more beautiful than I could have imagined. And so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the unconditional love that I receive from just the people in my life.
mm,
You, Mitch, you've been unconditional, and so what it means to me is to be so very present, to be so very present in the blessings and the smallest granule of love. And I think because of what's happening right now on the planet,
yeah.
it's easier for me to let go of, I don't know, my selfishness over, because it is selfishness to want, want, want. And so right here, right now.
I love that. Yeah. And when we stay in the want, we miss the gifts that are present,
Mhm.
right? And,
Right.
and the value and the goodness. And I love what you said about presence. I
Mhm.
think that's I mean, for me, honestly, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. And to me, it feels like the least commercial
Ah,
of the holidays. It feels more grounded today in
mhm.
gratitude and family and community and people reaching out and coming together. Although, I don't think we can talk about the holiday today as it exists without also honoring its roots,
Right.
which were really, planted in deceit, right? We were all told a very, um, you know, favorable rainbow and unicorn story about the Pilgrims and the Indians, which was very opposite of the actual truth. And there was a lot of pain and damage done that has rippled in to today's world as well. Um, and I think it's important to remember that uh,
Mhm.
that it came from that. But what it also tells me about how we celebrate today, the inclusivity, the bringing neighbors in, the connecting with, being grateful for what we have and not necessarily pushing for more, but being present, it just tells me that we can alchemize things that may have a dark start into something positive. And
Right.
that's how I've chosen to look at the journey of this holiday. I
Mhm.
know for some it's actually today is a day of mourning for many Native Americans, and they have changed it to that. And that's how it honors them and their path and what they value.
Right.
And I don't judge that. I think that, if that provides them, people healing, let's, do that, right? I'm definitely pro that. But
Mhm.
that's how, I think it's a personal decision about what you think about the holiday and its history and what it means to you today. And I don't know if you have any comments about that, but
I do,
yeah.
actually. It's interesting. I have a lot of friends that are indigenous, and they've helped me to understand so much. And
Mm,
it's it was frightening how much I didn't know
yeah,
about a certain culture, and not just history, which I did. I was,
yeah,
educating myself on. But when I was a little girl, I was just remembering this today. When I was a little girl, I played a pilgrim in a school play. And
yeah.
I think about how the message that was sent to the children and us children and me.
Mm,
And it's kind of like, when you find out that Santa's not real. And he's not real, right? Yeah. And to find out that that whole story was not true. And ever since I was a little girl, one thing my mom did, and then I adopted it when I had the center, was there's a lot of people, you talk about sadness, who are alone during the holidays. And so it became a thing for me that I would either open the center's door or open my home. And it became to where it became every single year I would bring out as many tables as I could find, and I invite anybody who did not have a place to go
mm,
for the holidays, or they felt alone or anything like that. And we would make this huge amount of food, and it
wow.
became this beautiful party and this beautiful connection. And it actually started to extend from there into Christmas. And I did that for, oh gosh, 20 something years.
Oh my God, Renee, how beautiful. It reminds me of a story when I was running a recreation department.
Ah,
And part of the recreation department was our senior center. And our senior center had a food program that was also run out of there for,
mhm,
income can tend to dip for older adults. And this was a way for them to not only have food, but have community. We actually had a
right.
dining. But then the question of Thanksgiving came up. Are we going to be open on Thanksgiving Day? Are we not? If we are, who's working? What are the hours? I really pushed. I said, look, we really need to have something open. Even if it's middle of the day, we serve, the turkey and all of that. We need to do something. So
Mhm.
I was able to get staff to buy into it, and we did kind of a midday dinner. And I had run into a lady at the senior center who was new. She was cute. She was from Germany. She had a great little accent. It reminded me of my mom because my mom had an accent. And I said, "Oh, you're new here?" And she's like, "Yes." And I said, "Well, are you coming to the Thanksgiving Day dinner?" And she goes, "You're doing a you're doing a meal on Thanksgiving?" I said, "Yes." And her eyes got real big and there were tears in her eyes. She goes, "You mean I don't have to be alone on Thanksgiving?" I
Yeah.
almost cried. I almost cried right there because you could see the depth of
Mhm.
meaning. And then it
Mhm.
reminded me of, oh, this is why I push to do, this is why we push to do this.
Right.
Um, someone who's new to the area, has no connections, older adult, doesn't have to be alone.
Yeah.
There's community for her.
When I lived in Los Angeles, I would be part of the going down to there's a Central Park there, and we would feed the homeless. And then it
Mm,
kind of was one of those things that just kept growing. And as a singer, we ended up this choir started over the years, and we would stand out there and we'd sing, holiday songs. And what's interesting is that some of the homeless people started joining in, and it became this huge
yes.
family. It was amazing. It was amazing, and, those to me that's what Thanksgiving's about. I mean, it really is. It's about the connection in the moment, and, really, in those moments, nothing else is present in your mind. Nothing.
It's true, true. In fact, Center for Spiritual Awareness, which was my home church, I remember when Thanksgiving, I forgot what day it was falling on, but I'm like, well, are we going to do something for this? And I was like advocating. I'm like, I think we should be open. I think we should have a turkey. And the minister totally bought into it. So we did this. Let's put, sign up menus. People can sign up to bring sides or whatever. The church will do the turkey. And now it's become such a fabulous thing. People bring their families.
Yes.
Like it just becomes this amazing. Everyone feels so connected. And you don't even know half the people, but you feel so connected
Right.
because it's such a high vibration of
Mhm.
community, of love, of gratefulness. Now it's one of my favorite things. I try not to miss it. So I'm going to be going. That's where I'll be for Thanksgiving this year. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it is powerful to do
Mhm.
it that way.
Yeah.
And so we're also going to talk today about Thanksgiving's past here in a second. But before we do, I think we should take a little break, a little 2-minute, I don't even think it's that long, commercial, a little commercial break. And then we'll be back and we'll talk about our own, like, I don't know, Thanksgiving disasters past or glowing events, either one, the turkey's burned and we have Chinese food, something like that. So don't go away. We'll do a quick commercial and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, antn.org. If you haven't checked it out, I'm a member. Reverend Renee's a member. They do some really fabulous and innovative things. I think they just had a workshop. If you remember, it was free on pronouns,
Mm.
given by Reverend Dr. Deborah Johnson. It was fabulous. So a lot of good stuff through this organization. If you haven't checked it out, it's antn.org. It'll be worth your time for sure. So now we're back. Thanksgiving past. How was your Thanksgivings growing up? Like, were any favorite dishes or, for me, they were kind of a tense time of year for me. I don't know how that played out for you.
Oh, yeah, they were a tense time for sure. Yeah, they were a tense time, and, I don't really think that I started enjoying Thanksgiving until I was probably an adult, and I had choice over, where I went, who
Yeah,
was there,
yeah,
so, yeah,
right,
yeah. So
yeah,
that was
yeah.
yeah, growing up growing up with my, family was, I'd say my stepdad. He was kind of very particular. Let's put it that way. He was
Mm,
very particular about how things were supposed to go, and so it really wasn't very fun. It wasn't
oh,
very fun. I didn't feel thankful about anything, and
right.
yeah, that was a hard time. And when I could choose on my own, when I got older, it really started pressing itself into my heart.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, because we always assume holidays are such a great time of year, but I grew up with 2 alcoholic parents, so holidays ended up being big drinking events, right?
Oh,
So where things would start off great, like you'd see mom making my favorite stuffing, and I'd be all excited, and
Mm,
people were happy, and then we'd eat, and then people would be drinking more, and then not so happy. Not so
that's
happy
so
after that. That's when the fights would break out, and that's when the arguing would happen, and
mhm.
it would just it would devolve. And I remembered when I got around 6 or 7 years old, I started to catch on. Like the holidays, not great.
Not
Not
so
great.
much.
Not so New Year's, not great. Thanksgiving, not great. All of those holidays. And it's kind of sad because,
It is.
people put an expectation on you that it was great. You go to school and like, "How's your Thanksgiving?" And, I can't say, "Well, mom and dad fought the whole time," right?
Yeah.
Like nobody wanted to hear that.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. It was that way for me too. You asked, what's my favorite dish, and you just said it, is stuffing. I love stuffing. I just
Well,
love.
they did the oyster stuffing, the southern version, which has the oysters in it, and I love
I've
oysters.
never had that.
Oh, it
Now,
was a
um
family recipe, yeah,
yeah, my family is, Portuguese, and so we, put vinegar in a lot of stuff, and
really.
so vinegar goes into our stuffing, and it gives it a different taste. It's got a little tart, and, that's my very favorite.
Yeah. But like you, as I got older, it started to have better meaning for me. It
Right.
started to have better memories. Uh,
Mhm.
later on in life, it was just me and my mother, and she would make it a whole cooking extravaganza. Like she'd do the turkey and baby it with white wine, and she'd do the
Ooh.
made from scratch mashed potatoes with the butter and cream, and then make her own like sauce from the au jus, the gravy that would go over it. Like it was just a whole epic event. Uh,
That is so sweet. That
yeah,
is really very sweet.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd have the best talks and moments. We'd have the best moments
Uh,
for
I
sure.
love that. I love that you had that.
Yeah, one of my favorite Thanksgivings was shortly after I bought a house with my partner. And we decided to host Thanksgiving at our house, and I
Mm.
never thought that I would ever do that, like, I never had a vision for that, like, that kind of depth of family interaction. So, my brother flew out with, his kids, and so my mom got to meet her grandchildren for the first time in person
Oh, I love that.
at this Thanksgiving, and then my partner's mother and family came, so we had this huge table. Um, and we cooked the turkey and we did everything. And I remember us all sitting there together. And it was really the only time that we were all in the room and we were all ever be in the room. Because life changed after that, not too long after my mom made her transition, and things changed. But I just remember having everybody there for the first time, and how much joy that brought me to see. And my brother was estranged from us for quite a while, about 15 years. So just to have that full circle come back together, gave me so much to feel grateful for. Something I never thought would happen. So
Oh, that's
that was one
beautiful.
of my favorites.
That's beautiful. My favorites was actually during when I had the center, and like I said, over the years, the number kept growing and growing and growing, and so in my house, actually, here, it was here that we have a 3rd level, and it's just really long and expansive, and
Mm,
so I, set up, 6-foot banquet tables all the way down, and I had, I decorated and I made the centerpieces, and I wanted to make it so sweet. Everybody had a candle so that we can all go around and light the candle one off another. And there must have been 30 something people here, and so much food. And it was so, so sweet. Everybody just, saying what they were thankful for. And my mom was here, and it was just one of those. I can see it almost like a photograph. Yeah,
yeah.
it was really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my, and I had many others that were good, as an adult. But I think I would say in the last 10 years, I've identified Thanksgiving as my holiday. Like, this is my holiday for so many reasons. I guess I don't really care for the commercialization of all the other holidays, if you think
Right.
about it. They're highly commercialized
Mhm.
with stuff. And yeah, we do buy probably way more food than we should, right? Let's, be honest. Yeah, a lot of gorging going on, but there's also a lot of talking and connecting and being present
Oh my gosh,
with each other.
there's so much opportunity to
Yes.
connect in a
Yes.
way that I think maybe we don't do all the time.
The only other time I think we connect like that, unfortunately, is like at funerals, where we're present. That's the only other time I notice this level of presence and
Mhm,
connection and gratefulness and humility. There's a deep humility
mm,
to this holiday that I love,
mm.
and that we think about others too. We understand our situation relative to others who don't have what we have. So
I'm excited this year for many reasons because I get to be with my mom, but my wife she goes completely insane in the kitchen. She creates a menu and all this, and I'm like, "There's only 3 of us." And she's like, "That's okay." And so this year, I've decided instead of me eating all of the leftovers, that we have planned on some people that are, kind of shut in right now. They're sick or they're unable to, maybe even go to the grocery store, and I have a couple friends like that, and so we're just, like, making these big, huge, gift baskets of food and pie,
mm,
and
mm,
so that
mm,
feels so exciting to me this year.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I
very exciting.
love that. I love that you're sharing the bounty with people, and maybe they have food, but just that you thought of them,
Mhm.
and bringing the holiday spirit to them. I think that's great. Get it out of the house too, right? Get it out of the house.
Out.
House, 'cause in the house, it's gonna go in here. We know this.
Going yeah.
That is
Mhm,
so, so true. You
mhm.
know, part of what I love to think about, when I think of gratitude, I think of it like the panorama of my life.
Mm.
You know, one thing that I always said is that I'm the kid the village raised in my little town of Pacific Grove, California.
I love it there.
It's beautiful, and it's a lovely, caring community. You know,
Mhm.
the people there knew my situation. My mother was on disability, and we didn't have any money, but they never said that to me. Like, they just knew to show up. Like, my coaches would just be like, "Hey, you wanna go to this camp? We'll send you." And they would arrange for my transportation, they'd sign me up, they'd pay for it. Like, that's the kind of fabric that community can provide. And, I really felt like I was caught and
Right.
supported in my dreams, and that's unfortunately not super common. I wish it was more common. I think we'd have a much healthier, healed world. And I
Right.
oftentimes think about, like, who would I have been without that kind of support and love and encouragement? I mean, I didn't have a father biologically living with me, but I had a father everywhere in the community. The coaches, the recreation leader guy, the teachers, all just showing up.
That
So,
is so beautiful. I love that. My experience was completely different, and, I think at 15, I was homeless at 15 and
oh, wow.
doing drugs and, I didn't have that sense of community, and it wasn't till later in life, I think um, when I started studying, New Thought and metaphysics, there's a global family there, and I was raised up on that, that unconditional love, but I love that you had that support from the people that fan the flames of your, your potential and your dreams.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
Well, and I was working the principles. I mean, I
Right.
was living them. If there's a
Yeah,
will, there's a way, right?
mhm,
That's what I was told. And I
right.
remember I wanted to be a softball pitcher. And I would get my little cardboard box and throw my softballs because that's what I knew myself to be. And I was told, well, only the kid of the coach gets to pitch. Well, nobody in my family was going to coach. But I still kept throwing to my cardboard box. And then one day I happened to land on a team. Get that? Happened to land on a team where the kid didn't want to pitch. And so the coach comes out and says, "Who pitches?" And I'm like, right here's my shot, you know. And then I, got to pitch, and I was the pitcher, and I got to finally step into that role. And then I would run bleachers and work out on my own. And a coach saw me running bleachers, and he wanted me to get more support. So he signed me up for a clinic in San Jose with the best pitcher in the world. It's just like the resources just kept drawing in. But I was actually living principle. I was acting as if I was doing the thing. I'm like, I'm gonna get a scholarship in this. I don't know how, but there's a will, there's a way,
There's a way.
I ended up being scholarshiped for pitching 3 out of the 4 years I was in college.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. I have a baseball story.
Do you?
First of all, no one ever wanted me on their teams for any reason whatsoever. I am not a sports person. I've never been, I guess, dexterous enough, or I'm very clumsy. So the first time I was up to bat, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this." I was so excited that I actually hit the ball that I threw the bat and hit I hit the ump in the face mask and knocked him backwards. I mean, I was just a kid, and I got in trouble a little bit because I was, a little reckless. But yeah, that was my baseball career.
The end.
The end. Never to run across a base again. Yeah, so that was mine.
Well, and it's fascinating too, because the way my scholarship unfolded, I actually had to go to the coach and say, "I need scholarship money or I have to leave." I didn't have
Wow,
enough
and
money.
he's like, "Okay."
And she's like, "Look, don't tell anyone. I have a little extra scholarship money. I'll help you." And then I had another coach who my car got towed, and when I drove to a game in San Francisco, and he drove the whole team around to find my car and get it out of impound for me, because I wouldn't have been able to afford it. Like all of these people just always showing up.
Right.
And it's inspired me to be that person showing up, because I know how much it's meant to my life, right? And speaking of village, and you said Science of Mind was kind of your introduction into village. After my mom died, I remember laying there thinking, I need community, because it was just her and I for so long. There was a big hole. And then I had a thought from out of the blue. Everyone know where the blue is? I think it was spirit kind of downloading, saying, "Why don't you go to one of those open-minded, affirming churches?"
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, that intention set about this domino, that my girlfriend at the time, who was playing football, was talking to a woman named Nancy. And Nancy was like a very particular person. Like, she was a curmudgeon. I didn't like much. But then Nancy mentioned her church, and she lit up. "Oh, this place is great." And I thought, if Nancy loves this place, I'm going, right?
Nancy loves it. That's hysterical.
And I walk into none other than a Science of Mind church.
Yeah.
And when they talked about the 4 things they believed, and the 4th was, "You are whole, perfect, and complete just the way you are right now. You may have some habits and things you want to change, but at your essence," I lost it. I think I emptied a whole box of tissue.
Oh.
I was just sobbing.
That was my first experience too.
And I knew I'd come home. And it was interesting, because my partner and I were walking to the car in dead silence. And she gets to the door and she turns to me and she goes, "This is what you're going to be doing, right?" And I said, "Yep." And that was in 2008, 2012, practitioner, and now minister. So, but that community gave me a place to show up and to be loved and to be seen after having lost my mother. And we were so close. We were almost like one heart beating. That's how close we were. And to get the love of community, and the healing of community, has now inspired me to create those spaces, because I know how powerful they are.
My first my first community experience of, the group love like that was actually at the Asilomar conference. The
Wow.
very first conference. I had not even been to a church yet, and I fell into that vat of unconditional love, and it changed me forever. I'd never experienced anything like that. And I kept thinking, these people don't know who I am and where I come from. And, they didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care because
Yeah.
what did they see? That I was perfect, whole, and complete, just as I was. And that's what's so beautiful about this teaching is that it doesn't matter the why, it just matters the what of who you are, and we are all perfect, whole, and complete, just as we are. And so that in itself is something to be grateful for. When somebody sees you, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Well, sees you in the present, right? And not so much through all the judgments and questions of the
Right.
mind. You can
Right.
see the essence of the perfection that you are. And that's living these principles, right? That what. And that
Yep.
was critical for me when I was transitioning, because I transitioned as I was in practitioner studies. Um, and it's like, what do you do? I mean, do you put it in the church bulletin? Like, how do you communicate this, right? And
Ta-da!
what I kept getting from Spirit was just let it unfold organically.
Right.
So I did. And at the time I was in a class and there was about 15 people in the class. And at that time I had asked people to address me as Mitch, right? But I didn't say much more than that, right? They thought maybe it was a play off of Michelle. I don't know. And my hair was short and I was binding and like things were progressing. But nobody said anything, like, until my teacher one day used a male pronoun with me, and the whole class went, "Oh!" Like they
Yeah,
were wondering, right?
right.
And then we get to the last class. In the last class, we each went around and talked about what we were grateful for in our experience. And then the first woman that spoke said, "I'm so grateful to know your transition in your gender because I thought you're very attractive and I thought maybe now I'm a lesbian," right? So she was like, and then the gay man's like, I really do find you attractive. I'm like so glad. Like 3 people were telling me how attractive I was and how happy they were for me. And it was really more affirming and beautiful than anything I could have ever imagined
Oh, yeah.
because I trusted the process. I trusted the community and I allowed things to just show up as they needed to.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what I'm grateful for is I really do believe on the balance that we really can trust people with difficult things, that they have more capacity sometimes than we think people
Mhm.
do to be generous with their love, with their acceptance, with their embracing of you, even if they don't understand it.
Right.
Um, and that was the big gift for me in transitioning was that I could trust people. And I didn't. I did not. Even with all of the community experience I had, I still didn't trust people.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
and now I do in a very deep way, and it's actually made me a better person, the whole experience.
Mm. You know what I'm grateful for? First of all, you.
Oh,
Um, our connection has been just priceless, and, yeah, seriously,
oh,
and I'll tell you that story probably after our next break, but, I'm grateful for the fact that, 5 years ago, was I was able, I think, for some reason, pushed to do it, and I felt like I had to, come out as someone who lives in that space of, what do you call it? Neuro something?
non-neurotypical?
Yeah, I'm non-neurotypical.
Neurodivergent?
Yes, which means, I live with, mental illness, and I kept that hidden my entire life, and when I came out, oh my god, I was terrified, and I had to do this video for this show, basically pretty similar to what you were doing. It's called This Is My Brave, and I
Mhm.
had to come out, and they wanted me to do it, out there. I was terrified to push the button to say go, and the response that I got was nothing more than, a miracle to me. I was embraced, I was loved. People were saying, "Wow, thank you for thank you for saying it out loud, and you're amazing, and oh my gosh, we stand with you. And that's why, I speak about it as often as I can, because I was terrified of the judgment and
Mm,
being ostracized, especially as a
mm,
minister. Excuse me, I got choked up.
yeah.
I'm so thankful that I spoke up. And that right there is a message, is speak up, say who you are, and the people that are meant to be in your tribe will support you and love you unconditionally. Unconditionally.
I love that. I love that you did that, Renee, and I love that you're part of that wave that's been happening to normalize discussions about mental health. We
Mm,
don't think anything about talking about our physical bodies. I live with arthritis. Oh, really? How do you manage that? Like we've normalized that, right? What if we could normalize, I live with the depression, or I live, I'm
right.
ADD, or I have bipolar or whatever, and I
Mhm.
live with that. And like, oh, how do you manage that? Like just to normalize the discussion.
In a social scene, I mean, it's easier. I mean, you could be in a social scene, a party, whatever,
Yeah.
and you could be talking about butt cancer, and
Yeah.
nobody flinches,
Yeah.
right? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh," but then you talk
Yeah.
about that you struggle with depression or whatever, and it's kind of like people like start. They don't know what to say. They
Yeah.
don't know what to say, and so I think in the media, things have become so much more out, and
More open.
even, yeah,
Much.
everybody is bringing it into the forefront. And why should it be any different than any other um, uh, situation that someone lives with?
Exactly.
Mm.
We all deal with some form of conditions. And, I guess what I would give, my audience here who's watching, like, well, what do I say if somebody says I struggle with depression or I'm whatever? I love the curiosity questions, because if you don't have a frame of reference,
Right,
something that feels good is to lean in and say, tell me more about that.
right,
Right.
exactly.
I don't know anyone who has bipolar, but I'd like to learn if you're willing to share with me your experience.
Hmm.
Because when we make it safe for people to share our experiences, it's a form of acceptance.
Well, love. It's a form of absolute love,
Yes.
and like I just said a little while ago, I see you.
Mhm.
I see you. Yeah,
Mm,
it's
yeah.
beautiful.
Well, we have to take one more commercial break. This has been so good, and then we have another story after. I think Renee has a story after this.
Oh, dear.
So don't go away. We're gonna do a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Woohoo! New Thought Media Network. Hey. So we're gonna have a little link that's gonna be dropped here in the comments. Please donate any amount, really, like a Starbucks coffee, $5. I think now it's $5. Went up to that. But we really want to see this channel, these shows go to another level. And I think we're looking at Roku pretty soon, being on Roku. Because it's this kind of organic content, I think, really heals people, connects people, and brings us together in ways that a lot of programs don't. So hopefully you'll be willing to do that for us today. So we're back talking Thanksgiving, talking turkey. We're talking turkey.
Talking turkey.
Turkey and what we're grateful for in our journey and who we're grateful for and how things have unfolded.
Do you have a horrible turkey story?
Do you have a horrible turkey story?
Yeah, or Thanksgiving story, one that went awry.
Wrong. I think one time my mom's mashed potatoes were like soup. She was very upset about that, and I was a little disappointed, but I tried to hide it because she was so upset.
Aw.
It's great. It's so
Joy.
potato soup.
Aw. Well, I have one. Back in the beginning, we traveled. We were at a different church almost every Sunday, and we went to conferences, and we were just always on the road. And so we come scooting into town, and calling people in to come to our house for Thanksgiving. And we had this idea that, well, we can get a turkey. It's the night before Thanksgiving.
Right.
No, you can't. And there were no turkeys left. The stores closed early. Even Harris Teeter, which is a big store here. And so we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? So we got up early in the morning and we drove all around the city, everywhere, trying to find even a ham. We're like, what are we gonna do? People are coming to the house.
Get a vegan ham, whatever it is.
We had all the sides. And I was like, at this point, I'm starving. I'm just starving. So we go through Jack in the Box. And I have this genius idea. Bah, bah, bah. And I went, hey, that sandwich has ham and cheese and bread. And okay, we bought like 20 of them. And I got out a can of cream of mushroom soup, and I added some more bread to it. I chopped it all up. And then I made a casserole, and I called it the Jackson Bossé casserole. Yeah, and so that's what we had, and we put it down in the middle of the table, and it looked really good. People went nuts over this. Yes, it's the funniest. Everyone's like, "This is so amazing! Oh, we love this!" And that's when I came up with the name. They're like, "What is this called?" And I'm like, "Oh, the casserole is Jackson Bossé."
Jack in the Box, Jackson Bossé.
It turned out great, but I mean, so when you're in a pinch, just open your mind to all possibility.
When you're in a pinch, call Reverend Renee. Like,
call Reverend Renee, and I'll help you out.
I always call you when I'm in a pinch. Like,
you do, yeah,
because I'm dating now. I have a girlfriend, but it almost didn't happen. I didn't know what to do, so I called you. I think she likes me. I don't know what to say. I have no game, Renee. I have no game. Help me.
You did have game. You did. You did have game.
No, I did exactly what you told me, and it was right. It worked.
So I want to talk to you about connection. I want to tell them about how I met you. It was a year ago, 2022. 22 at the conference, and I sat next to Mitch at the lunch table or something, and I started asking him questions. I am a person who will ask you so many questions, it'll irritate you, which it did with Mitch. But I found out his story. I found out that he was trans, and I was just like, this is amazing. And so I just asked him all these personal questions that were very inappropriate. And so I realized later on, after we had a break, I'm thinking, oh my God, I came at him like a tsunami, because my energy can be pretty big when I'm like, I'm like getting into knowing somebody through their energy. And so I went up to him afterwards. I said, can I talk to you? And he was like, yeah. And I said,
not.
I know. I said, I really want to apologize. I feel that, I was inappropriate, and I was, really, really in your business. And so slowly but surely over the year, we would connect on this and connect on that and connect on this. And by the time the conference came around, we had been BFFs for quite a while. And, I just want to encourage everybody is like, that's, I may have come on a bit strong, but I knew that we were supposed to be connected. I knew it. I knew that we were colliding and our energies and our universes were crashing into each other for a purpose. And you just follow that. Follow that instinct within you. That's my message. Follow the instinct.
Well, and I think there's soul family. I really believe that. Wayne Dyer used to say that your friends are God's apology for your family, right? You can't, sometimes you strike gold with family and sometimes not so much. And sometimes your family can't really see you, right? They can only see past versions of you. And that's what I love about, friendship and friendship that's very organic and authentic. And I feel that we have that. And it's such a healing thing to be seen, because you've been on a little bit of a ride with the girlfriend carousel that I had this last year. And, I love that I can get a reflection of myself from you that I need to see. And I hope I provide that same reflection for you.
You do, and that's the thing when you have a connection like this, we call each other on our stuff. We don't co-sign the lower vibration, the image we have of ourselves sometime. And that's really think those are the kind of people you want to have in your life, the ones that go, no, no, I'm not co-signing that. Yeah, it's very, very empowering and uplifting. And so I think we both do that for one another.
Absolutely. And I do have circles of friends, like, and to me the inner circle is you have to go through a lot to get to that circle, and for me you're in that inner circle because there's a depth of transparency and that I can give you that you can handle in a way that's loving and responsible, like with the same values. And I think it's important to put people in proximity to you in a way that makes sense for your well-being, for your goals, for your values. And that's not being judgmental. I think that's just being responsible, because not everyone has the capacity to see us or hold us in a way that is authentic and loving. And that's just where people are on their journey. At one point I didn't deserve to be in anyone's inner circle. I was a hot mess, So we're just all kind of unfolding in whatever way we need to. And I respect that,
I respect that. I was supposed to ask you a question.
Yeah, we're gonna do the signature question. Okay, well, why don't I ask you first, and then
no. Okay.
we'll
Ask me the question.
I'll ask you the question. So this is our signature question. Neither one of us got to answer it because Renee was my first show guest and I didn't have the question. And then when she interviewed me, we ran out of time. So now we both get to answer the signature question, which is, someone is writing the book of life that will serve as a guide, inspiration, and wisdom for generations to come. And they're asking you for a story from your life to put in this book that will be inspiring, wise, or hopeful. What story would you give them and why?
I've been thinking about this. So there's so many things. I think the story that I would tell would honestly be the story of standing up in front of people and doing my talk, saying that I'm a divergent and being so authentic, probably for the first time in my life, and realizing that I'm enough. I didn't have to be anything other than who I was. And that was something that was very hard for me. I never felt like I was enough. And I saw myself in a more beautiful way. I saw that it didn't matter what I weighed. It didn't matter how old I was. It didn't matter about my past. None of those stories defined me. What defined me was that moment. And so that would be the story. I would say is it's a story about vulnerability, authenticity, uh, transparency, unconditional love, and really bravery and courage to just say, here I am. Here I am. Just see me, love me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And enough right now with
Right.
all of that, with all of it.
Exactly. And
Still,
so
yeah.
yeah, and my quote or my subtitle would be, and I can't remember the man who wrote this quote, but it's never too late to be what you might have been, and then and you've always been perfect. So
Yeah, it's never too late to be what you might have been. I think
never
that's
too late.
Edward Teller, I think.
That's it. That's it. Thank you.
I actually have a whole story around that, but I can't do that story now. But
Okay.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
This I'm enough, which people get a lot of messages, particularly in advertising, that you
Mm.
aren't enough. You need this cream, or you need these clothes, or you need that, fill in the blank.
Go get Botox real quick. We were talking about
I know,
our
right? Our mind,
mind
we
earlier.
have our thinking space.
Yeah.
So the story I would pick is, as I told you, my mother and I were very close. We were almost like one heartbeat. We would finish each other's sentences. We would communicate telepathically. It was really a beautiful relationship. I remember walking into the room on Mother's Day one time and two people commenting how close they could see we were.
Mm.
It was that palatable. And she got really sick after I had taken her to Europe. She had a blockage in her colon, and
Mm.
the surgery didn't go well. And then she had to go back for emergency surgery. She almost died, and she ended up being in the hospital a year. They actually didn't expect her to leave the hospital. We actually spent one Christmas on the hospice wing.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And, my mother, there's a will, there's a way, spirit stronger than the flesh. She lived those things. She demonstrated those things. And so not only did she leave the hospital, she lived another 5 years.
wow.
What had happened in year 5 was there was a severe decline because she had short bowel syndrome. Her body just wasn't absorbing anything. Everything just went through her. So she could go on a feeding tube finally. So I would set her up with the feeding tube at night and I would take her off in the morning. And what had become abundantly clear to me, I think this was just before she went on the feeding tube, is that the only reason she was fighting to stay on the planet so hard was for me.
Oh, yeah.
And at this point, I was 40 years old, and I realized that this wasn't going to end well. Like I could see that she was dying in slow motion.
Right.
That was really hard for me to understand. In fact, if she had been a dog, she was so thin, she was just skin over bone. We would have put her down, like
Right.
what we would have done. And I knew our time was growing short, and I decided to have a brave conversation with my mother. And this is really hard. But I took her to lunch and I wanted her to know a couple things, right? Before anything happens, because we wait to have these conversations and we really need to think about having them when people are alert and,
Mm.
functioning. I said to her, I said, look, Mom, I know that you're fighting really hard to stay on the planet for me, but I need you to know that if you ever get in a spot and you don't want to try anymore, it's okay. I want you to know it's okay. And I want you to know I'm going to be okay. Like, I really wanted her to understand that. And she's like, "Oh, you're giving up on me." I said, "No, no." I said, "But if something were to happen, I want you to know those 2 things." And that was in September of 2007. And on November 7th, I walked into her room to take her off her feeding tube, and she had gone. She had transitioned on her terms, in her bed,
Mhm.
knowing that I was gonna be okay. And the reason I picked this story is we still have a hard time accepting that people we love are going to transition, pets are
Right.
going to transition. Everything we love is going to leave us. We either leave it or it leaves us. And I think it's so important to have difficult conversations while we can have them.
Mhm.
Right? Whether it's I'm going to be okay, whether it's okay, it's okay if you choose not to continue. Like to really extend ourselves in love and courage. That's how we can show up for people who are in these situations. But the tendency is to pull back, to be afraid, to keep hiding from this truth of death and transition. So I really wanted us to have some courage. That's why I would give this story into the book, to have brave conversations and to embrace transition and death. It's a part of life.
Absolutely.
Sooner we can do that for our loved ones, because I'll tell you, I do work with people who are in their transition, in their final transition, and they worry so much about their loved ones. That's coloring their experience of transition.
Yeah.
Demise, not their pain, but how are their loved ones doing? And the loved ones won't talk about it. There's a lot of putting on a happy face and not really connecting in supportive, accepting ways. And so when we can show acceptance, when we can say we're going to be okay, we give the person who's sick a gift.
Absolutely.
The important gift. And so that's the story I would put in there.
That's beautiful. That is
Oh, we
beautiful.
ran out of time. Look at that. I got carried away. Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming on the show. We will see you next week, 11 o'clock. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching.